All right. What's going on, guys? Sincere here with Anon Radio Live and the All Rights Matter show. We have a very crazy night tonight for you. We have Brandon Curtis of the Idaho 3%ers. We've interviewed him multiple times here on my show as he's, been supporting and actually creating the buffer zone at the Oregon standoff. As you know, we've covered many topics, about 90% of them Oregon related, some of them personal related, to Brandon Curtis. But tonight we're actually going to bring Brandon Curtis on for a little bit of a different reason, and it's not going to be so much to cover Oregon related information as it is going to be to cover a personal attack that just happened to him. And I'm going to actually let him describe what happened and what's being said. And then we're going to go ahead and take it from there and see where we can go from there. Brandon, are you on the line with us, brother?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm already getting messages, and people are very interested to hear this show. We have this article that's actually coming out here, and I actually read it from the Idaho Statesman, and where it was a rather scathing report, I guess we could call it. And this report pretty much detailed all of your personal financial history. Well, not all of it, just for about the last 15, 16 years, and what you filed through the bankruptcy courts. And that information, that's pretty much public information, but it's placed all of this information in an article with said interviews and stuff like that. So I want to bring you on to talk about it, and maybe we can see where this is going. We know that this is, I've looked at it myself, and I've read actually over the comment section, and after it was immediately dropped, I've watched the progression of it. So I know that it was a very calculated article. I understand that it was an information attack, if you will. So I get that point of view. But what we want to cover is we want to cover the broad base of it. We want to cover the information attack side, some of the factual information that's there, as well as the information that's not factual. And we want to try to understand from your point of view how you feel about this information and like how this impacts your role as a member in the Patriot community. So we have a lot of angles to talk about, a lot of things to discuss, and I'm sure that you have a lot of things to discuss with us. With that being said, let me open up the floor to you so you can go ahead and let us know kind of what's going on to give the listeners an idea.
Sure. And first of all, I want to, thank you, Sherrod, for having me on the show tonight. It's definitely not an easy topic to discuss. It's not one that, I'm a prideful person, so it's not one that sits easy with me after that article came out. But as you know, and I hope all of our listeners know, and, people in my organization, people that come to know me, one of the things I believe in is transparency. So I also believe with these issues, we hit them head on, and we talk about them. We get it out in the open. And so thanks for having me on the show to do that.
No problem,
we have
brother.
a lot of things going on.
No problem.
So the Idaho Statesman, they put an article out about me yesterday on the front page. And if you just take a step back and look as just a reasonable person, you would see that story is not worthy of front page news. So there is, like you said, very calculated, very methodical point behind it on why they did what they did and how they did it.
Hold on. Let me clarify here. I agree, as you already know, that it's a very calculated, methodical attack. So, I agree there. Now, with that being said, I've only seen the internet version. Is there, where you live at, is this in Boise?
Yeah, in Boise, Idaho.
Okay, now is this just online, or is this also like, did they take this to physical print as well?
No, they took us to physical print as well, and online and on Facebook.
Oh, okay. So they use the whole gambit of their resources to really. This is a real like a breaking kind of a big deal article for them then to use the whole gambit of their resources.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they I mean, as you and I talked about before, I mean, it was a very well calculated hit piece. They definitely had a reason behind it. I have my own theories and reasons why they did what they did at the time they did and how they did it, you know, which you and I talked about, and we agree on that.
Okay. Now, some of the things that were alleged in the article, I don't have it before me right now, and I'm actually about to bring it up here on my phone. But some of the things that were alleged in the article, and then I'm recalling off of, memory now, were things, just speaking broadly, of you pretty much taking money. That would be one of the big things, taking money, also avoiding paying money through using the bankruptcy system within every 8 years. And those are just kind of two of the biggest things that I saw throughout that were common, comments within the sections below, and what looked like a paid commenting section below the actual article.
The paid trolls.
Oh my God, the trollage was, I haven't seen a great troll job like that. And man, some of my videos get trolled on YouTube, and I have a couple videos that have, hundreds of comments, and actually a couple one with thousands of comments on it. And the trollage is amazing when you see it happening. When I looked at that article, that just told me everything I needed to know by just immediately looking at the comment section first. But with that being said, kind of back on topic, we know that it's paid for. We understand that. Okay. I think I want to find out something from you. Let me actually progress a little bit. When we talked about this yesterday, when we were planning to do this show, one of the things that I asked you about, and because I was busy at the time or whatever, but one of the things I asked you about was who wrote this article? Like what is the name of the newspaper that put this article out? Not just the author, but what's the name of the newspaper that actually put it out? And what are their affiliations, with the community that's there, and maybe whatever political organizations, like who are these people that they would go to such depth to use the gambit of their resources? So I asked you that question to kind of find out, to see if you were able to find out any names of who's behind this, why they may be behind it, and and kind of shed some light on that. Were you able to find out anything, whether about the author of the article or the company that wrote the article?
Well, yeah, absolutely. So the Idaho Statesman is our newspaper here in the Boise area in the Treasure Valley. They typically lean very left. It's owned by California people that lean very left. They tend to be a liberal-sided newspaper. They've had an axe to grind with us for a while because of our not willingness to always talk to them, because they report very irresponsibly. So they actually asked me, during the burn stuff, they were calling me for information. I said, hey, I'm not going to talk to you guys. And they asked me why. I said, because you guys don't report things accurately, twist things, and you always want to lean it towards a gun issue, a racist issue, or whatever issue it is the hot topic. And I said, I'm not doing it. So, I feel like they've had that axe to grind for a while because we wouldn't give them the time of day. And I find it's ironic that, they all want to be your friend to get the story, right? So here we are. John Sowell is the reporter who put that piece together. We've done some digging on him. He tends to lean very left, anti-gun, liberal, living here in Boise. We did some digging on him, and he's just kind of an odd guy. He's made comments on his Facebook page.
John, is John the one that reached out to you when you were in the Oregon situation? Do you remember who it was from the Idaho Statesman that reached out during the Oregon situation?
I don't remember who it was, but it was not John because it was a female.
Okay. Okay.
So it was somebody different. This John character, I don't know. We have, our investigation team is working on getting some more information and details, but, I'm not sure.
Hello? Okay, guys, give me 1 second here. We're back up and running again. I apologize for that delay. As I told Brandon earlier, I don't know what's going on, but ever since I announced that I'm putting this video out, my internet connection has been dropping every few minutes. So bear with me, guys. I am doing the best that I can to stay online and to bring you guys the real story as I can bring it to you, but this is unprecedented. Everything is dropping. The internet connection on my phone, on my laptop, that I've already restarted twice. It's like my RAM is going crazy and I have nothing running. So I don't know, guys. I'm leery to say what I think this is, but I'm gonna keep fighting it out. So let's go ahead and get Brandon back on the line. Let's go ahead and call him back up. We'll just do that live.
What happened, man?
Hey, I'm sorry, brother. You're live on air, but we lost everything, man. I don't know. Like, I couldn't even bring up the internet connection on my phone. So
that's weird.
Yeah, dude. I told you just before we started, I was getting attacked on everything, and it's like seriously going down. So the last time I remember this happening, I was doing a Sandra Bland special, and it seemed like everything that I was doing then was getting attacked too, and the same kind of thing is happening now. So it's just a little bit worse this time. So I apologize for that delay. We were talking about John and the author there, and that's kind of when we got lost there as far as your investigative team was uncovering some information regarding John.
Yeah, so John is the gentleman who put the article together. He just seems to be an individual that leans to the left. We don't quite sure his background before Boise. We're still checking it out to find out what his motivation is. He seems to be, some of the stuff that he's talked about and he's been quoted saying and heard saying, for example, that he gets self-gratification from looking down the line of urinals in a men's bathroom. I mean, those type of things are disturbing. So it really makes you question where he's coming from.
Yeah, it doesn't really make me question where he's coming from, but I know where it's like. It sounds like I can hear where he's coming from. But at the end of the day, I without passing judgment on him or anybody else, my worry and concern was normally when you see calculated information hits like this, when you see something like this happening, normally it's not really the objective even of the author, because the author of that particular column is going to have an editor, and then they have other people, a chief editor and stuff like this. So it's going to go through different levels before it would even get approved for print. And then for it to go to the front page, a lot of voices and a lot of hands have to be within the mix. To actually get it, to pull off, and that's the graphic designers, that's the marketing team, the social media marketing department, the editor, the chief editor, all kinds of people, and then there's the executive level. So there's a lot of people that are involved in making these types of decisions, and the author is not the end of that conversation. So my whole theory was, well, if we find out, kind of what the affiliations of the people are of the company, then we can maybe get some kind of clarity as far as why they use so many resources to place this kind of article on the front page, as if to say, ha, ha, we got you with public information.
Right.
So, were you able to find out anything else, like regarding who the what's her you said something earlier regarding, I think, an editor or something like that. So
the chief editor.
Yeah, and I wanted to find out some more information about that. Were you able to find out, past that author that you talked about, this chief editor, like, who is she? Like, what were you guys able to find so far about that situation?
Well, so the chief editor, or whatever her title would be, the one that oversees, her name is Vicki Gowler, and she moved to Boise in May of 2015. She used to be the chief editor of the Miami Herald in Miami, Florida, and her views and her, she leans to the left, which is the same way as the whole paper does, with the owners of the paper, as well as obviously the reporter. So that seems to be the way she leans. The other thing is, we found out she's actually retiring tomorrow. So this is her last month there, and she's done.
She's retiring tomorrow?
Yes.
and that was the chief editor, right?
Right, correct. That's Vicki. So she was actually in Washington, D.C. for a while, in New York. She bounced from New York to Washington, D.C. to the Miami Herald in Miami, Florida, and then over to Boise, Idaho, May of last year, and will be retiring tomorrow.
That's interesting. That's funny. Okay, so she's so they drop a bombshell, quote unquote bombshell, of public information on their front page of their paper through physical print and through online media and through all their social platforms. And the person that could possibly, benefit from receiving any kind of exposure and or backlash that, may not benefit is actually retiring tomorrow.
Correct.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, you can see where that's going.
Yeah. I can definitely see where that's going.
Well, and her entire career started in Washington, D.C. That's where her journalist career started.
Yeah. That's a very interesting point. See, I think a lot of people read these articles online, and they think to themselves, "Oh, well, I read it in an article; it must be true." Like, I kind of saw it on the internet; it must be true. And I tell people, don't stop at just reading the article. Go research the information afterwards, because you don't know who's writing the article and what their intentions are. It's very easy to write a scathing article or to write an article in a fashion where you can make one's mind lean as far as how they understand the information. So based off of their initial perception of the information, if it's skewed information they're receiving, their initial perception is going to be leaning heavily on one side of maybe where it shouldn't be. And that's what we see a lot of going on with whether it's mainstream media and also, even more so in independent media. And I think that's something that it's a dangerous thing, but it's also, it's the freedom of our press that's out there, right? So we can't change that. But what I would like for people to do is to be responsible readers. It doesn't mean that the person that's writing the article has to be a responsible person in what they are doing, he or she is doing. They're either being paid to do a job, forced to do a job, or they just have a particular bias towards doing an article that they want to work on, so they'll do it based on that. But, it doesn't mean that anybody is saying, hey, you have to be truthful 100% of the time, even though we know that's supposed to be the code of ethics, that in today's society, it generally doesn't tend to be true. So with that, I would implore everybody, anybody that's out there that's a listener, do your own research. Don't just read these articles and let them be the end all of what you know. Go research what that person is saying, research who that person is. I've had many people already try to pick apart who I am and, oh, you worked for the military and this and that. And so I've done now videos and articles detailing exactly who I am and what I've done in my lifetime. And I implore people to, of course, ask those tough questions, So with that being said, and without me talking too much, It's what I want to find out, in asking some tough questions. We could talk about who these people are at the newspaper. We could talk about who the editor is, and their political stance, their financial stance, the interesting fact that she retires tomorrow. We could talk about all these things, but I know that the listeners out there, they also want to get into the meat and potatoes of the information, if you will, because they're feeling like, well, Brandon Curtis has been telling us about all this stuff in the Patriot movement, and we should believe this, and we should look at this, but why hasn't he told us about the things going on in his personal life and the personal struggles that he's having? How do you respond to those criticisms, and how do you respond to the people that feel, in a way, betrayed by the fact that your personal life, well, the financial side, let's be clear, the financial side of your personal life isn't maybe in line with how well you promote, or it seems like it's not in line with how well you promote the Patriot community. How do you respond to that criticism?
Well, it's very simple. I mean, the way I look at it is you have your personal life and you have your business life, and then your personal life is pretty much your Patriot life. So, those are tough questions only because I'm a prideful person. So for me to sit here on a radio show and say, yeah, I've had to file bankruptcy due to medical bills and these things that have stacked up over the years is a tough thing to say, but that's the reality of it. That's where I'm at in my life. Mm-hmm. to have to use the bankruptcy code to ask for forgiveness of that debt. Mm-hmm. Over the years, I've had some kidney issues, and I had to have a foot surgery and a knee surgery, and people have known me for years know this, and those things have added up, and our wonderful Obamacare didn't cover a lot of that stuff. So, you rack up $125,000 worth of medical bill debt, it adds up very quickly.
Oh yeah, it definitely adds up, and no, Obamacare doesn't cover a lot of things. So, and I'll just say in this show, one thing that veterans are having a hard time with getting covered anywhere, and other Americans is dental care coverage. So I'll just put that plug out there, as we need to start including dental care coverage under medical coverage. But moving on from that, yeah, that Obamacare, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't cover a lot, and then the co-pays are very, very high. I mean, it's just extremely high, and it's hard for any kind of family to, pay their medical obligations and still stay afloat. But with that being said, okay, how do you respond to the critics? Because I don't, I'm this is the All Rights Matter show, but I like the truth. So, and even if that means asking the tough questions, I gotta ask them. So, how do you respond to the critics that say, "Oh, well, he was making X amount of dollars a month, and so was his lady." And what do you mean that they couldn't pay for, their medical expenses? How do you respond to the people that say that you were making a certain amount of dollars a month while you were working, running a business, mind you, and your wife was making a certain amount of dollars, but you couldn't pay for your expenses, and you had to file a total, I believe, of 3 bankruptcies now. So, how do you respond to that kind of criticism? Just going a little bit deeper.
Sure. So first and foremost, I want to clarify it's not 3 bankruptcies. What happened was I did file due to a divorce back in 1997 or 1998, a Chapter 7. Okay. That was back when I was in law enforcement, and going through divorces are very rough, and it was very expensive. So that's the route we had to go. So moving forward, in 2009 or 2010, we filed a Chapter 13 bankruptcy to repay the debt because I felt obligated to not just dive out on it. It needed to be repaid. So we put a payment plan in place, and we went through the Chapter 13 process. Income continued to decline, and expenses continued to incline, as we're all aware. That's how things are going right now. I'm in the sales industry, real estate market, and it's been tough for a lot of people. It's just now starting to rebound itself in the real estate market. So that's the reality of it. So we had to convert that, and that's what we're doing now, and that's what I had to do in February. We dismissed our Chapter 13 and converted to a Chapter 7 because the payments on the Chapter 13 bankruptcy are actually increasing payments every year. Well, that's tough to do if you have more medical bills being piled on and then you have a loss of income, which for those who have been listening to the show, if we remember back in February, I was asked to leave my brokerage in real estate. So that was a huge hit for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to convert that to a Chapter 7, and that's very unfortunate because I'm a very prideful person. That's exactly why I went the route of a Chapter 13 first, because I felt obligated to repay those debts, whether it be on a forced payment plan to where the trustee tells the debtor or the creditor how much they're going to get. But at least I felt we were carrying out some obligations still.
Okay. So you would contend and say that the first bankruptcy wasn't really a bankruptcy that was based on the fact of financial matters, but the fact of a relationship status changing back then.
Back in 1998, yes. It's not something I look at lightly either. It's not a way out. It's not something that I lean on. I would much rather, work hard, make a lot of money, and nobody should have to go through that. My attorney, when I sat down and met with him, he actually said, you need to understand this is going to be a process. It's very emotional, especially if you're a prideful person, which I am. They equate a bankruptcy filing as to going through a divorce. I mean, the emotional, the things that you're going to go through, and it is tough, and it's not something I'm proud of.
No one's ever proud of bankruptcy. Well, unless you're Donald Trump, and then you're pretty proud of bankruptcy because you say, well, I'm able to exploit the laws that are in place so that I can keep all of my money. Now that has been a criticism. I actually did read that comment in the comment section of the article. Oh wow, just like Trump. And how do you respond to that criticism that, maybe you're just protecting your assets and playing the game, the way that the game is supposed to be played on at every 8-year level? How do you respond to that kind of criticism that people would go so low as to say that? What do you say to that?
Well, I'm sorry. I actually laugh at that because to protect my assets, I have a house and a truck. I mean, really, and my children, there's nothing to protect. I'm not some millionaire that makes a whole bunch of money. I actually did turn over my tax returns to the trustee, and the amounts that I make are actual to the amounts, and it's verified. Yeah. So there's nothing shady about it. It's truly because of a hardship. I don't have multiple businesses making multiple millions of dollars. I don't have timeshares and condos and vacation homes and and a Saturday car and a Sunday car. I have a truck and a home. Well, and a business that I'm trying to, make survive in this world.
Okay, and that's fair enough. Fair enough. Now, let me ask you this: how many, with the amount of debt that they have listed there, which is sizable for a lot of Americans that look at debt like that, and I have a lot of friends on a lot of different levels of life, so numbers like that aren't anything new to me. But for a lot of people out there that aren't used to seeing anything upwards of $200,000, something like that would look like a monstrosity to them. Now, we've already stated that you have a business. With that being said, I kind of want to focus in on something that I know that, I'm actually going to help you out here at this point in time, because I know that you didn't want to do this interview, but I know at the same time there's information that you do want people to know. So, with that being said, tell us about like how many people do you employ? Of course, you have a business and you have to run your business, and there's expenses associated with that. What I would like for you to do is tell the people how many people you employ. And also, as far as your Patriot organization is concerned, how much of that obligation do you take on as the president without really receiving too much commitment, from everyone as a whole?
Well, I employ 2 full-time people at my office and 1 part-time, and so that's the staff that I have in place, and and I work there full-time as well, and I have never taken a paycheck out of that company. As I said, I make my living on real estate, which is a sole and separate, endeavor. So, that's how I make my living, which back again, in turn, when I was asked to leave my real estate brokerage, why that was such a huge hit. So what I have done is I have focused on making sure my employees are able to continue to have a job and support their families and their children, because I feel that is my responsibility as their boss to do that. So I focus in on that, and I want to make sure that they're taken care of and they're squared away, and that's what's important to me. And the business side, that's what people need to understand. My business is not affected by my bankruptcy. My bankruptcy is on a personal level. My business is not filing bankruptcy, and I'm not filing bankruptcy because, as the paper tried to portray it, like I'm out to defraud all these people and I spent all their money, so now I'm broke, I got to file bankruptcy. That's not the case at all. And when the trustee digs into these things, that's what they look at to make sure it's not going on. Otherwise, you don't get your discharge, and then a whole other issue arises. Yeah. We work very hard to do everything the right way at my office. My staff is great. Everyone works hard and diligently to do the right thing at all times. Period. There's accounting that's in place. There's no mismanagement of funds. I mean, is it tight? Absolutely, it's tight. There's not huge margins in property management. You don't make a whole lot of money. I'm building that business, and a lot of people have asked me, well, why don't you take a paycheck? Why do you do it? Because I wanted to build something for my retirement down the road. I'm thinking ahead, not for the now. I use my real estate for the now. So now that being said, that's how that's structured. It is sole and separate from the bankruptcy. The bankruptcy is my personal life. My business is still there. It's still going. Period. Okay. Now, I don't know how much this article is going to affect it from yesterday. That's my disclosure, but, we'll see. We're going to keep pushing hard, and hopefully the people that know me over the years know that, we still do a good job and do what we do.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Fair enough. Now, with that being said, since you actually, went that direction now, I actually wanted you to get that part of the conversation out because, for the simple fact that, and you still didn't actually cover everything that I wanted you to talk about. In your personal life, you do take on something that, in your business life, you don't. Okay, so in your business and your personal, those are separate things, and that's understandable. But in your personal life, you also are a patriot, as you stated earlier in the interview. Now, in that community of patriotism that you support, and you're the president of the organization there, do you incur any expenses personally for those things?
Oh, absolutely. When I started this organization from the ground up, it was all out of my pocket. And I was so dedicated and focused.
That's kind of what I wanted to focus on right there, is because, see, my thing is this. When a person is in a circumstance and when they're in a situation, and I've already talked to you, and I know that this has frazzled the hell out of you. Now, when they're in a circumstance, it's hard for them to see, all of the angles, but I listen very intently. And I listen to you tell me about the things that you do and the things that you provide for. And that's why I want you to be able to come on air to tell your side of the story. But I also want you to really tell your side of the story. And I understand you've never really been frazzled on air before. But this is kind of one of those situations where I think it's pertinent for people to understand where you're coming from, what you really contribute, what you really put in as just a man of integrity, like where your funds really go. Because people are saying, well, how does he make this much money, and does he just spend it all on himself? Is he in Las Vegas and Hawaii all the time? And I know that that's not true, and I know we speak and you tell me a lot of things, and I kind of want to bring some of those things to the forefront. So, without saying too much more, what goes on in the Patriot community, and how do you spend your funds, with that as well?
Well, this entire organization was started, from the ground up by myself in Idaho, and a lot of us at first, a lot of our leadership, myself included, it took our personal money to do that. When we go and we stand for people's rights, doing what we truly feel is the right thing to do, and we go help these people, a lot of times it's out of pocket. There's fuel, there's lodging, there's hotels, there's, we got to eat. I dove into this fully committed, 110%, and I never looked back. And it did have an impact on my finances. I'm not going to lie, and every extra moment that I had, I was putting into this Patriot movement to build it, because I truly, truly believe in it and stand for it wholeheartedly. And what I would be doing before I was involved in the Patriot movement, I'd be out getting new business. I would be out getting new clients and new things, new homes to sell and new buyers. And because I dove into this Patriot movement like I did, I wasn't able to replenish that bucket, if you will, of income. And when you're in the real estate world, everything you do today to generate buyers and listings, that's 6 months down the road before it's a paycheck. And that's what people need to understand. So if I get a buyer today, I won't see a paycheck for 4 to 6 months.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Because of the process that it takes on average. So people need to understand that. So if you don't tend to that, lifeline of in sales to continually have, that in place, it's called the pipeline, the sales pipeline. If you don't have that pipeline full all the time and you're not tending to it day in and day out, it will dry up very quickly. So when I dove into the Patriot movement, I didn't tend to that pipeline, so that would create a loss of income. Now, it was a hard balance, and I don't regret it, because I know when I wake up in the morning and I dive into this Patriot movement and I continue to do what we do with a great and amazing organization that we've built, we go do those things for our children, your children, our members' children, everyone, to make sure that we can secure the freedoms that we want them to see when they get older. So it is a very delicate dance. And unfortunately, it has come back around to bite me financially, because I am not selling the 50 to 70 homes a year like I used to. And people need to understand that. I'm going to equate this for everyone, and hopefully they understand. I was in the top 5% of selling real estate agents in the Boise Valley. Before I got into the Patriot movement. Now I'm struggling.
And what was the percentage again? You cut out there a little bit. Say that percentage.
I was in the top 5% of top selling real estate agents in this Boise Valley.
Wow.
And now I'm struggling.
The top 5%, and now you're struggling.
Yeah, because I dove into the Patriot movement, because I fully believe in that. I fully support what we stand for. And I'm not going to look back. I'm going to have to find that balance to get back to where there's a happy medium. But I'm not going to stop doing what we do.
No.
Because the paper printed some bullshit. I'm not going to stop doing what we do.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable. That's understandable. And I don't think you should stop doing what you do. I just contribute a little bit and say there's a difference between, if somebody was, if they said, Brandon Curtis did something to people in the Patriot movement and hurt people in the Patriot movement, and then there would be a valid argument for your stance in the Patriot movement. But when people take personal financial records, even if it is public information once it becomes bankruptcy, when they take these personal family matters that become public record and they display them as if the person is not a credible person due to the logistics of their finances, then it says a lot. It's not like it's not like you have millionaire and billionaire donors. It's not
Right.
like, okay, it's not like the government is paying you. Wow. Now that would be a story right there, because now I guess we can also put the rest, this fact, people calling you, a government agent, because clearly now your finances are out to the public and people can see you have absolutely not been getting a government paycheck. So,
Yeah, right. I mean, that's,
with that,
and it's amazing. They'll swing from one side to the other, right?
yeah, it's completely from one side to the other. So you got all these narratives that are pretty much out there. Without saying too much again, because I could keep going on and on. I want to. I also want to address another issue here, and I kind of want to speak. Like I said, I want to do these hard questions, these hard topics, but I want to be fair because I know you as well. So I want you to point out certain things. But there's certain things that I haven't asked you, so I'm asking you here. When you talk about the situation that's going on, because people will say after this video is put out, they say, well, Sincere, that was a good interview, and I appreciate the good interview, but. So I want to eliminate the buts before they happen. And one of the questions that people are going to ask is this. When they look at the article that's out there and they say, well, now that we have this whole financial history, or parts of it, we'll just say, and the perception of this liberalist kind of media outlet, now that we have this have this information here, they're going to want to know, when they read that article and they see, well, he collected rent. And I don't want you to get into legal, terms of your particular cases or anything like that, but he collected rent from a couple and they never saw this or they never saw that. Is he stealing money? Is he taking money? What is going on with his the finances, dealing with his business? And how does that trickle down into the personal aspect? And is there a connection with the trust level for his drive and commitment to the Patriot community? So I want you to comment on that.
Sure, no, and that's a great question. Absolutely, let's air that out, because I think that's a great point. So many people have commented, and it was also the focus of this hit piece article from the newspaper, that we were involved in this lawsuit 2 years ago, just actually over 2 years ago, to drug on. We were. And what that situation was we had a owner that we parted ways with, and we, went to finalize their books and rents that were due to them, and they said that they were owed almost double that. Well, it's real simple. You collect about X amount of dollars, you pay X amount of bills, and here's what's left. We had all the records, we had all the bookkeeping, it all matched up. However, they decided to obtain an attorney. They did that. I did that, and we went into this lawsuit. It was a lawsuit that lasted 2 years, and the reason why they weren't paid out their money initially was for two reasons. Number one, they were disputing the amount, and number two was, in my management agreements, it states that if we have to hire an attorney to defend our management agreement, we can use the money that or rents we're holding for their account towards our attorney fees. They signed and agreed to that when they signed up with us. So we did that. However, we went into this battle, and I was into my attorney over $20,000 alone with just my attorney bill. And we got to the point where it was becoming, 2 years in this lawsuit, over $20,000 in attorney's fees and climbing and motions and hearings and motions and hearings back and forth. And, finally it got to the point where I just told my attorney to come up with a stipulated settlement of some sort, and that's what we did.
So
we never went to a hearing.
Let me ask you this. And it sounds to me like the oldest trick in the book happened to you. Did you get bullied by the other side having a little bit more money than you?
Oh, these people had a lot more money than me.
It sounds like they hired that attorney and he came in there and said, okay, well, we'll see how deep Mr. Curtis's pockets really are.
Well, and let me touch on that, because
I think he would have drawn it out past 2 years if you didn't settle. What do you think?
What's that? I'm sorry?
If you didn't settle out of the situation, do you think he would have drawn it out longer?
Well, we were getting to the point where the judge was getting pretty pissed off. I mean, and he was mad at both sides, and that's the other thing I didn't want. I didn't want to have to go to a trial with a pissed-off judge, because that could go against me or for me. So I was very concerned with the way it was headed. And the other thing, I do want to back up and talk about this, because I had an attorney that's been a friend of mine and of my family for 20 years. I've used him for everything. So in the middle of this case, things just seemed off to me. And so I started checking the court clerk's records and doing some checking on my attorney. My attorney was in the middle of this case, was accused of molesting his grandson, and was defending himself on that, why he was being potentially criminally charged, and answering the charges for that in the middle of my case. My attorney missed filing deadlines. He missed discovery deadlines for the court. So as I'm finding this out, I'm going, holy shit. I actually asked my attorney early on to send 2 offers of settlement over to the other party. He never even delivered those. So we had a situation where I was going to need to terminate my attorney. As a matter of fact, this was talked about in the article. They had made it sound like I bullied my attorney and he had to withdraw from the case.
Yeah.
The reality is I fired him because he missed filing deadlines. He was being investigated for molesting his grandson. All these things were going on. I had to fire him, and I had to get another attorney. That's why I changed the attorneys. And then we worked out a settlement. So that's what happened in the middle of the case. I have no doubt, looking back, and if we could go back and I would have had an attorney on his game, if we wouldn't have missed discovery deadlines for witnesses and for my books, he missed the deadline to file the discovery on my behalf, which was all my record keeping and all my books, which were certified by an accountant. That's the biggest piece of the whole case, to show that we were being honest and truthful. That was thrown out because he missed a filing deadline.
So essentially, your case, 90% of your testimony was inadmissible because 90% of it is going to be based on the evidence that you have to present.
Exactly. And the reason why these things were missed is because I find out that he's over being interviewed and interrogated for allegedly molesting his grandson.
Oh God! Wow.
And on a personal level,
yeah,
because of one of the things I want to talk about before the end of our show today is one of the things that we stand for in the 3% of Idaho. We have an organization called the 3% of Idaho Patriot Rider Group. We stand against child abuse and child molestation and bullying. I can't, in good conscience, sit in a chair in a courtroom next to this guy who is answering the charges of molesting his grandson and allow him to represent me.
No.
I have to fire him.
No, absolutely not. You don't allow anybody to, you don't do that. No, not at all. So
that is what the Idaho Statesman did not report on. Those are the details they don't report on that they leave out. And those are very important details for people to understand.
Well, with that being said, let's talk about that as well, too, because another part of the article that they state is before they put this article out is that they contacted you and that you declined to comment on this. And so kind of that they gave you the opportunity to give your side of the story on this whole article before they actually put it out. Did this phone call or did this meeting, I guess they're there in town, did this meeting happen? Did they come to you to do that? I mean, to get your side of the story before putting this article out? They
did not. Absolutely not. That portion of the article, well, with a lot of other things in there, was a bold-faced lie. I actually emailed the reporter the morning that was released, and I said, why did you not reach out to me for my side of the story or comment? And I went on to explain to him, I said, there's several things in your article that are not factual and are very false and misleading. And I said, it's irresponsible reporting at best. he responded saying that he called me at my office on this date. And then he asked me what facts were not true. And I responded to him once more, and I said, I don't believe that you called my office, and here's why. Because every other reporter, and I put in quotations, any other real reporter that has tried to get a hold of me, for example, Fox National News, Sean Hannity Show, CNN, the Washington Post, the New York Times, all the other local reporters here in the Valley, KTVB Channel 7, everybody has had no problem getting a hold of me. But yet, this guy who claims he tried to reach out to me was not able to do that.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, it sounds sounds convenient. Sounds very convenient.
And he did not respond to that email. So what he went ahead and did, he put an update in the article stating that I refuse again to answer him when he asked me what facts were not accurate. Well, the reality is he never emailed me back again when I was asking him the questions.
Oh.
So this guy is an absolute liar.
Oh, okay, I see now. So that kind of proves the notion of what I initially put out. See, I didn't even know that. That proves the notion of what I initially put out, then, is you have to find the players involved. You can't just look at the author, you have to look at the whole team. And when you have somebody that says that and they don't really get too much in depth about how they contacted you or anything like that. They kind of duck and dodge that, but then they double down on the fact that that you're trying to dodge information twice. To me, that paints a clear narrative of what that person is doing, what that person's intentions are. You can see that the author, John, there, what his clear intentions are, and whether it's his personal intentions or the intentions for his team, that can be, up for dispute. But I would say it would be his whole team and not just his personal opinion. But it shows a clear narrative. It shows them clearly moving in a direction of attack instead of gather credible information and go down that path. And, had they went down that path, like you previously stated, they would have found out about, the child molestation charges that were being brought up on your ex-attorney, which is just completely mind-boggling. But, so at the end of the day, with all of that being said, I guess you could say people, and like I already asked you, I guess they'll be able to know now. It's not necessarily so much as the way that this article has been painted by this individual or this company. It's really about the perception of understanding what the underlying things are that have happened. And when people don't do their investigative duty, through journalism, then it's very easy to throw out a false narrative and to have people's minds and hearts run wildly with these ideas that aren't true, instead of finding out, oh, wait a second. It's not a fact of he didn't withhold any kind of, rent money or anything like that, but it's the way that the money was positioned and how it was moved and under the legal circumstances of how things were handled, and then how strong-arm circumstances started happening. It shows a clear position for battles that you've been through and that people in the business community go through every day of the week. They go
Absolutely. through. There's businesses that go through lawsuits. I've been in business 11 years.
Yeah. And
I've had three lawsuits, maybe four. A couple small claims, and then this big one here that's in the article. That's not bad odds. But what they leave out is the hundreds and hundreds of satisfied clients that we've had that they didn't go interview to talk about how we've helped tenants and how we've helped them get into homes when it's been hard times for them or they've had hardships, or we helped the homeowner save his home one time because we were able to rent it out and do it quickly and efficiently. And as a matter of fact, he just called me last week and said, I owe you because you saved my home. Yeah. I mean, they don't go interview those guys.
Oh, of course not. Why would they do that? That's not a part of the narrative to do that. And I That again, back to what I was saying, this is a narrative that's not necessarily just being put out by, I believe, John himself. I believe this is being done by the whole team as a whole. This is something that it's not an accident. They're going in a direction with this for a reason. So with that being said, with the discrediting process that's already starting to happen, especially on the fact that this is being performed almost as an information operation towards you, how do you think this is going to pan out as far as, two sides? How do you think it's going to pan out as far as the people that are plotting this against you? Do you think that the attacks are going to continue? And if so, how? And how do you think it's going to, collectively pan out as far as your involvement in the Patriot community and the business community?
Well, on the business community, it's yet to be determined. Hopefully our clients will see through it and see what it is. We have lost a couple of clients because of that article, and they made that known. And they also made it known, hey, we don't have an issue with you. We love you. We think you're a great guy, but we're more concerned with the public image of the article. So that's a concern as well. And of course that's a concern. And, there's a part of me that says I don't blame them, but yet they know me, and if they trust me, there's a checks and balances system. So we're not stealing from our clients. We're not embezzling any money. I'm not off in Vegas or in Hawaii. For God's sakes, I rent a home and I have a truck. It's not like I'm living some elaborate lifestyle. That's what people need to understand. And I fight and claw for, every, transaction and penny I earn, just like the rest of us hardworking Americans. I'm no different. Hundreds of thousands of people file bankruptcy every month. Yeah. Our own country can't even pay its debt or its bills. That's really where we're headed. And it's, as far as the Patriot movement is concerned, I'm glad you brought that up because I want to address two things with that. I've had a huge outreach and outpouring of support yesterday and today from people that just are very supportive. Very few people were negative. The people that have been negative aren't in the Patriot movement per se, and the ones that are negative are the ones that have an axe to grind, or ones that are ex-members of ours that we've kicked out. And ironically enough, I'm not going to say name, but they got their own skeletons in the closet. Garnishments and judgments and DUIs and all these things. It's like, okay, we're going to throw those rocks when we live in the glass house, and I understand why they're doing that, because they're so miserable in their own skin. They got to make misery for others, and that's okay. And they can go do that on their own. The other thing is we're doing a huge donation push for the guys that are locked up in jail, our 4 Idaho guys. And so a lot of comments are coming out about, well, he's using donations to bail himself out. Well, if that were the case, I wouldn't be in bankruptcy, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. Secondly, I have poured far more money out of my own wallet into this organization, the Patriot Movement, than 4 times over what we've ever collected in donations. Period. Mm-hmm. Hands down. Third point on that is that we have a full administrative board with a treasurer who oversees all the finances. I don't oversee the finance. She oversees the finances. So there's a full checks and balances in place, and if something was out of line, everyone in our administrative team would know it. We have administrative meetings and conference calls. We talk about what's in the bank account, how much donations, what's been spent. And we've been helping those families a lot. So if anyone was skimming money, there wouldn't be enough money there to put money on their guys' phone, the books for their phones or their commissary, or we just cut a check this morning so one of the family members could drive down for a hearing tomorrow. We wouldn't be able to do those things. Mm-hmm. So no one's taking any donation money. Yeah. Nobody.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so from a business standpoint, you don't think it's obviously affected you, but it's you're hoping that it's not going to affect you too negatively, in the long run. From a Patriot standpoint, you know, you don't really see it affecting you that much because you've received the support of overall the majority of the Patriot community, who's actually those who are involved within the core, involvement of things of the happenings of the Patriot community. You've received good support from them.
Yeah, we received a lot of support from the Patriot community.
Okay, and that's good. Now, the final part of the question, I guess I want answered is, where do you see this going, though, as far as the information attacks are concerned? I'm happy you answered those two parts, but I also want to know, what do you see happening? Like, do you see more information attacks happening like this from whoever has initiated this kind of response and research into who you are? Do you foresee more attacks coming out like this? And if so, why do you see the attacks coming out like this when you just listed everything that your community, or as far as your organization does there for the community? Why do you see them targeting you? And do you think it'll continue?
Well, do I think it'll continue? I don't know. I don't know. Really, I don't have anything to hide. So, I don't know how much more information they can dig on me because I really don't have anything else to share. Everything's already been aired, So, whatever, I literally have nothing to hide. So if they want to go dig some more and find out, I got an F on a paper in high school, great, go for it. I really don't give a shit anymore because they've already dug into my personal finances. They've aired that. My 14-year-old daughter was harassed today at school because of that fucking news article.
Yeah.
See, they don't think about that when they put that stuff out. Absolutely they don't think about my 14-year-old daughter calling me from school in tears and asking me, why are my friends doing this? Or why are these mean girls at the school saying this?
Oh, yeah.
They don't think about that.
No, absolutely not.
And you know what? I hope John Sowell, whatever his name is, has to deal with that someday. You know what? Here's the deal.
Yeah.
I was pretty upset emotionally yesterday. Today, I'm pissed. And where this is going, the great thing about the Patriot community and all the outreach and support that I've gotten, a lot of those people are attorneys. And we are going to do something about it. Because I have been damaged by losing business, and I have been publicly smeared that I can factually discredit what they're saying.
Absolutely.
Those are the only two things you need to do in this state. And it's called libel and malice.
Well, that's what I was actually going to ask you, because it's actually a two-part kind of question where I was going to take it to is, John and the company, they're going to scream, this is all a matter of freedom of press, and we got factual statistical information, they'll say, and that's all that we printed was statistical information that's publicly there. That's what they'll say. Now, with that being said, you have credible factual information, and some of it that we've spoken of tonight on why numbers were presented a certain way. So pretty much to let them know, hey, the way that you presented this was exactly wrong. And I was going to go into whether you're going to do a lawsuit or not. Now, I'm going to ask you a question because I already know what they're going to do because they're the media. Okay? They're going to paint you in a box, and you have to be ready for this. The box that they're going to paint you in is you're out to attack free journalism, that you're out to attack free media, and that you don't want people posting public information. So how do you preemptively respond to the criticism that they're inevitably going to say as you continue to criticize the way that they're conducting themselves in their ethics in journalism?
Well, you actually hit the nail on the head, ethics in journalism. So I'm not attacking the freedom of the press and the First Amendment by going after them with a lawsuit or whatever I decide to do. What I'm going after and what I am condemning is lying and irresponsible reporting by using lies and misguided information and facts. That's what I'm going to attack. Because I would be if they reported accurately, and I'm not even going to say fairly, okay, but I'm going to say if they reported accurately, I'd be the first one to stand up and say, "Yep, that's true." But see, they didn't. Right down to the paragraph where they said I declined to comment any further was a lie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe
and
that
I can prove it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I believe, if that wouldn't be hard to prove, but also, it's just I can't get over the level of marketing that went into this article. I mean, it was very, very well marketed. I mean, it's something like, I can just imagine all of the top people getting together in their building there at the Idaho Statesman and saying, hey, well, we got them down and we're going to go ahead with this agenda. And they're all sitting around the round table together and they're like, okay, this is how we're going to move forward. And you're going to do this on the social media end. And this is how it's going to look on the front page. And the editor has to be right. And the executive team has to know. And the shareholders. And just this whole hit kind of strategy. I can see that this is what they're doing. And I don't think that the rest of the public sees the amount of effort that was put into that article. I mean, that was a stone cold hit at you personally. And for it to affect your bottom line the way that it has affected your bottom line, and considering the facts that you've told on this show, even some things I definitely didn't know. That kind of, it proves to me that this is something that you should probably move forward in a lawsuit. You said maybe in a lawsuit and you weren't 100% there, but I'm telling you maybe 100% that you should move forward, because I don't believe that, people should be able to do that to other people, to have that kind of power to just purposely just slander them in any kind of way without factual data. And when they're putting it out in what it should be credible circumstances and what is not noted to be a tabloid kind of journalism, place.
Right. Well, I had to process, I'm the type of person that I will just sit back and process and take it all in. And I really try hard not to react out of emotion. I'm sitting here today saying, okay, now today I am pissed. And that is an emotional response. And
Hello? Are you there? All right, guys, again, apologize. Let's get Brandon back on the line. Everything got taken down once again.
You there?
Yeah, we're live. Everything, same thing, just happened again. All my internet connections were lost, and I have no idea why any of that just happened. So, same thing again. But this never happens to me. I'm sorry. So, I may have problems getting things started and things like that and getting started late, but getting taken down this many times doesn't happen. And I just I happen to not have my connection analytics running, so I can't even tell if I'm being attacked, but I can certainly feel an amazing slowdown, and it keeps dropping my connection. So I'm switching back and forth between two internet connections I have, and for both of them to keep going down, it's pissing me off. So
we know what the deal is.
Yeah, man, I'm really upset by it, because I know that this is all important information, and that when I put this out for YouTube, I hate editing my videos, but I'm gonna have to take out these dead spots now that are in this interview. But as I promised the people, we are going to finish this interview, because this is something that the people want to know about. They've invested a lot of money in marketing this article, so it is kind of something that's really big in the activist community right now. And and I appreciate you coming on here and just giving us the opportunity to get the information out to the viewers first, because that's what you've done in Oregon. You've from the Patriot side, is you've allowed the rest of the community to come in and see what was happening, and you've invited the rest of America into Oregon from the Patriot side, and you supported from the ground in a big way, and possibly held down the fort longer than would have been strategically possible before you guys arrived. So and now you're coming on in this context and giving us the information first, to get out there to the public, regarding what you're going through in this major information attack against you. So I appreciate that. I really do.
Well, and it's important we get the information out. I agree. So, we'll technical difficulties, we'll get through those.
Yeah, and what you were covering earlier is you were saying that you were angry and that you were pissed, pretty much. And as far as where this was going, you were angry at first and you're kind of pissed today, and if you could just kind of cover from there before you got lost on air, and and we can take off from there.
Yeah, I mean, I just try not to react out of emotion what I was getting at, because we're talking about the potential for a lawsuit or taking some sort of legal action against the Statesman. The first thing I do is I sit back and I just try to analyze and process, and how I'm going to move forward. I do know where the information came from. The information was given to the Statesman by an individual here in the Meridian area that we do know who that person is. We are well aware of that. They will also be named in that suit if we decide to move forward as well as the reporter and the editor and the Statesman itself. So, that's going to be our game plan if we decide to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's understandable. And like I had initially said before we were cut off, there will be the Statesman will say that you're trying to create an attack on free speech and all this kind of stuff. So I'm glad that we were able to preemptively cover that before it happens, because that'll be a key to nullifying their position on them being able to say that. Before they're able to say it. So very good at addressing that and answering that question for me. I appreciate that.
But I mean, and the bottom line is we're not perfect. I have made some bad choices. I wish, I didn't have as many medical bills and debt that have piled up over the time. It's just, we're human. We things happen, and we just have to figure it out and move forward. I'm not trying to defraud anybody. I'm not trying to, cover up assets. Like I said, I'm in a rented house with I have a truck and, a TV or whatever, like any other household has, and
Yeah.
That's certainly not the case. And it doesn't, because someone files bankruptcy, doesn't make them a crook or a fraud, as this article tried to paint me as. And that's not the case at all.
Listen, I'll give you some information, and I'll help you out a little bit, because I understand where you're coming from, man. And I think the viewers who are really understand where you're coming from. And the fact of the matter is, if we took things at face value, we could say a lot of things about a lot of people. One of the things that you could say about me right now is I drive an FBI truck. And it's not by, it's not by, I did it on purpose or anything, but I went to an auction in Philadelphia, and I went there to buy a vehicle, and it was an all black Durango with black tinted windows, and it was in great condition and shiny, looking good. And I said, okay, that's the one. And I bought it. Well, it only had one time owner, and it happened to be the FBI, the field office in Philadelphia. So you could look at stuff like that about people. If people knew that, I had an FBI truck, and when I bought it, it had 2 bullets in it. It had an old rusty,
right.
It had an old rusty bullet, and then it had another bullet that, I don't understand how you lose bullets in a truck, but whatever. And it had another, regular hollow round, but it was all silver, so it was a brand new bullet. But so a couple loose rounds in the truck, bought it from an auction owned by the FBI. People could look at me and honestly paint a picture and say, hey, you know what? He might be working with the FBI. He might be an informant. And that's the culture that we're into right now, is people pick and choose what bits of the information they want. And I'm sick and tired of that because I know that's the exploitative nature of the mainstream media. That's what they do all the time. And I believe that they've imparted this view and this perception in people now where people are, I don't think people are even capable sometimes. I think there's just a certain segment of society that's incapable of looking at a situation from all perspectives and all angles. And they really are much like the mainstream media that they watch, and they can only see it from one perspective.
Right.
That's sad. It's
very sad.
It's very sad, and it's effed up. Just to be honest with you, but that's what you call how do they call it in TV world? Programming, your daily programming. So
yeah, indoctrination and programming. Yep.
Yeah, it's to be expected, and I assure you, some people will listen to this interview and they'll say, "Hey, I don't believe that Brandon Curtis guy. He's still a scumbag, and he still doesn't stand for patriots, and he doesn't love America, and he's not really there," and everything in the world that they want to say about you. And I would ask you how you would address those, but I already know that you've addressed it several times on the show, and I thank you for that. And like you say, why aren't they showing up? Why don't you see their faces? Why aren't they starting any organizations? Why aren't they helping out any families? Why aren't they stepping up on a national level? Where are they? Who are they? Why are they not contributing? So you've already answered that question, and I appreciate that. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, from this whole situation? I know we got you a little fired up tonight because we had to go deep on some of those questions, but I know they're going to be asked, and it's I tried to keep it fair for you, and not try to kill you and, accuse you or anything like that, like I know that the paper has done, but to be kind of, your friend, because I am your friend. There's no secret about that at this point in time, that me and you are pretty cool. But it's still, even in being a friend, be impartial to my audience and let my audience know, hey, listen, I'm not going to sit here and hold any punches because I'm cool with the guy, and I'm not interviewing him because I'm cool with him. I'm interviewing him because I want you to know that I hear what you're saying about him, but I do know him, so I'm going to be cool with him. But at the same token, I am going to ask some of the questions that these people in the audience are really asking. You know what I mean? Some of the questions that when I put it up on YouTube that they're really asking. So I hope that you understand that and that you understand the All Rights Matter show. We do support you, but we also want to make sure that we get the truth out there, and we hope that you understand that in moving forward too. And we appreciate the fact that you gave us all the answers and you didn't duck and dodge, any of the questions tonight. So we really appreciate that, Brandon.
Well, and that's why I respect this show and respect you, because you do look at it from all angles, and I will answer questions. And I've never been one to duck and dodge questions. As you know, you've interviewed me I don't know how many times, and hours of interviews that we've done, and you've asked me some hard questions, and we dug into some personal things a couple months ago, and I've never ducked and dodged questions. I don't. Yeah. And I try to be an open book with people, and I will explain people my situation. I have nothing to hide. There's a lot of, if you go read the Facebook pages and the posts, they're going to start indictments on me for embezzle, all this horse shit. Those are the piss off ex-clients, and it's like, that's fine. I mean, if that's what they feel like they need to try to get started to make themselves feel better, fine. I have nothing to hide,
Yeah.
It's real simple,
There's a lot of people out there. I think there's this segment of society where now even the conspiracy theorist thing has become a pop culture kind of thing. And you got a lot of these unemployed people that sit at home. No offense to unemployed people, because technically a lot of you are entrepreneurs at this point and you just don't know it yet. But you got a lot of unemployed people that sit at home that take in a lot of information and they have a lot of opinions. And unfortunately, their opinions are very misguided because they don't know how to do fact gathering, and very swayed because of the type of media that the algorithms let them see on their computer. They don't even understand that the algorithms, Google shows you the information of what you're more inclined to like anyway. So if you're a Republican, you're going to see more information leaning towards Republican values. If you're a liberal, the same will be true for you. And Google has their algorithms down to that. So that when I tell people daily programming, that's what I'm talking about. But you get a lot of people that are out there that are viewers or listeners, and they're affected by this culture. They're affected by this environment. Then you get writers that are affected by this culture and environment. And it's really a sad thing when you don't get a lot of people who sit down, stop for a second, and logically look at a situation from all angles and willing to tackle it from every angle. I've read the comments about you, Brandon. I've read I've seen everything. I've seen just about everything. That article that I just saw was some of the stuff I already know because I told you I looked up your information before. But, so some of it wasn't really necessarily new to me, but, it was new to a lot of people that were out there. And it's just, it just goes to show you how information can be used. If people can't see that by now, how dangerous information is, and especially when money goes behind it, an agenda and money goes behind it, and powerful voices, it can do some amazing things, whether that's amazing things in a bad way or in a good way. In this situation, it was meant to be in a bad way. So I hope everyone understands that we tried to keep it partial. We tried to be fair. And at the same time, Brandon, we had to ask you the tough questions, but we appreciate you for answering them. Is there anything that you want to give the people before we go ahead and let you go and get off air? Is there anything that you want to close with that we haven't covered tonight? Because this is kind of one of those things where, we spoke very briefly last night and it's kind of unscripted, and you've had your long day today, and we just got on here, like 5 minutes before airtime. So with that being said, we're just talking off of the cuff a lot of things we're saying, but I don't know if I've covered everything. I hope I have. I hope I've remembered everything that I wanted to cover and the things that my audience wanted me to cover. Is there anything that you want to cover, though, that we haven't gone over?
I mean, I guess the only thing it's really sad we've come to a society and a culture where if I file a bankruptcy for whatever reason, and I don't go post that up to the world on my Facebook, and they find out about it in a newspaper article, it's like, oh my gosh, that's really truly the society we've come to, and it's really sad. And that being said, just because someone has come on some financial hardship personally and has had to file a bankruptcy, you don't know people don't know the backstory. They don't know why. Take the time to find out why. Maybe that person truly is going through a hardship and needs to be lifted up, not tore down. And most of all, it doesn't make them a criminal.
No.
It doesn't make them untrustworthy. It doesn't make them a piece of shit.
No.
And people need to get over their own goddamn self and realize that, there is ramifications to these things that take place, and people need to start realizing that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's ramifications to media. And to plotting information attacks, against people. So, with that being said, I wholeheartedly agree that, that you should be angry. I agree that people should understand what this is, for what it is. And I'm even comfortable saying, without taking it even further than this, is I support you 100%. And I stand behind you 100%. And I'm sure that my viewers and listeners out there actually stand behind you 100%. As a matter of fact, I know they do, because I've shared some of the messages with you, when I get the opportunity to, that people send me in regards to support for you. And I know that you receive some of them there through your accounts as well. So people understand, Brandon. They really do understand. And even more importantly, they appreciate your transparency. So keep being transparent, brother. Keep, speaking out. Don't ever let them shut your voice down. Don't ever let them feel like they can shut you down to control the narrative, that they can attack you and hurt you in such a way that it will control the narrative of how you feel and react in life to things. I would just say keep being the head of the Idaho 3%ers and doing good things. With that being said, also, I know you guys have a lot of community efforts. Is there any community efforts that you guys have coming up soon that, people could find out about or support in any kind of way?
We have a lot of community things coming up, especially coming in the spring and the summer. We do a lot of different things. We do our Adopt the Highway trash pickup. We'll go help the community. There's the paint the town. There's with yard care, whatever's needed. But one of the biggest things this year going into this season is now that motorcycle riding season's upon us. We started right at the end of last season. We launched another part of our organization called the 3% of Idaho Patriot Rider Group. Okay. And that's a motorcycle group. And, we have about 35 members in there so far, and it's growing. And one of the things that we do is, we stand against child abuse, and we'll escort children to court. We'll provide security at their homes, whatever's needed to help that child, to be empowered once again and get through that really tough process that they're going through. So we're really excited about that. That's going to take off like crazy now that the riding season's upon us.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, that's really good. And are you going to have any kind of links for that information?
Yeah, and I'll shoot it over to you so that way you can share it, because it has its own page and everything set up. So I'll shoot that over to you. Okay,
absolutely. And I'll make sure I share that in the description section of this video so that people could get some further information on that by, of course, clicking below. But, with that being said, and I guess, that can close us out right there. We appreciate everything that you've done, Brandon. Appreciate it. Just keep, like I said, keep being transparent. And as long as you keep being transparent and you keep opening up to the public about what's going on, who you are, and just being transparent, these types of things normally tend to play themselves out in a very good way. So we have well-documented interviews of many hours of conversations, and we can add this to that list as far as another over an hour-long conversation that we've had on live air about topics and discussions that are current and relevant to Oregon and also to your personal life. So with that being said, thank you again. Keep your head up, brother. We're on your team over here. We say, whatever you guys are doing to support the community, whether it's from the homeless, whether it's from the children or any kind of women's groups or anything, for the mothers and the families, we support all of that, and that's what All Rights is really about. So, standing up for godly constitutional values. So keep doing that, and don't ever let these extremely leftist people. And I don't play the paradigm game, the left-right paradigm, but I call it as what it is. Don't let these kind of people attack you with that kind of rhetoric, the anti-patriot rhetoric, which would further divide the community during difficult times. I would say, continue having a backbone. Anger is normal. It's natural. So, have that anger. It's okay. But to expel that anger in a good way by maybe getting more involved with the community and having an even bigger drive with community participation and, in patriot activities. So wish you well, brother. Really do.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you having me on the show. And as always, stellar job.
Okay, hey, no problem, man. And you too, brother. As far as coming on and just keeping it real with everybody, that's all I ask of you. And I'm sure that just based on your character and personality, that's what you're going to keep doing. I will say this in closing. It's a little hard to pull information out of you sometimes. If I can give you one honest opinion, on air, and I will say that is because I think it kind of this is an honest assessment. it comes from what you were saying about being having a little bit of pride. Of course you have a little bit of pride. You've worked hard for the things you have. So normally people that have a little bit of pride and they have multiple things going on, they also have a little bit of privacy that they'd like out of life. And I think that, I think that this did affect your pride a little bit, which is okay, because you're still alive. But I think it more so, hurts you that it filtered down into your children. And I believe that that's another reason why it was kind of harder to pull that information out of you tonight, is because you got so many things going on up in your mind. And coupled with that pride that you have, it's just stuff that's hard for you to talk about. So when I say thank you, I mean that from a very genuine and sincere place, no pun intended, but a very genuine and sincere place that, thank you for reaching in yourself and going that extra mile and saying, this is important enough to, talk about right now and to get out in the open. And I appreciate you trusting my brand, the All Rights Matter show, and as well as, my listeners and my viewers, and which are now a lot of your fans as well, too. I appreciate you trusting us with that information, and just know we got your back, homie.
Thanks, brother. I want people to know I'm still who I am, and that hasn't changed. We all go through bumps in the road in life, and this is one of them. We'll get through it. We'll persevere. It's not going to change who I am, and I'm going to still stand tall, stand proud at the end of the day, and keep fighting. All
right. Well, with that said, everybody that's out there listening, make sure you guys go below this video if you're watching us on YouTube. If you're listening to it live, it'll be archived on YouTube by the morning time, by the time you get up in the morning. And it'll be out there. So make sure you go to the All Rights Matter show fan page on Facebook. Like the page. I'll have it up on the page so you can be first to get it and share it out. The archived version on YouTube. And, keep supporting, guys. Download the app. Purchase a t-shirt. It's all in the description section. Go to Brandon Curtis's links that are in the description section. Check out what he has going on and what they've contributed to the community there, the Idaho 3%ers. So, don't go by these articles that people write and you have no idea what the credibility of the source is. We have to get out of living in a generation where that's the first thing that we do. So you've gotten valid, solid answers for things that were written in the article, incredible answers. So this is, more proof that, there's a lot of bad journalists out there, and there's a lot of people that write bad media, and they don't do the full breadth, justice by giving the full breadth of the story. So you're going to get that here on the All Rights Matter show. Thanks a lot, Brandon. And as always, brother, stay alert, stay alive.
All right, brother. Thanks.
All right now. Peace.
Bye-bye.